We're here. We're not late.
No, we've been here the whole time. You weren't playing with the green screen trying to find an image to put in there. That was definitely not happening. So,
3 minutes. I know you all wanted to hear about our delayed arrival. Today we are talking about Phelan. What are we talking about?
today we are talking about tips for spying on your competition. So
Mm,
we're doing that for whether it's, with tools or, strategies, stuff like that we use when we're trying to figure out what our competition or client's competition is doing online.
right? And so we use this for part of our SEO audits. Um, and we have a lot of fun looking at our clients' competitions stuff. So let's get right into it. There's a number of things we do. We actually teach this as well in our SEO class, and I think we're doing that class next week. Um,
Yes.
so this is a lot to do. So we use Chrome. So I think one of the major components is that we're using a lot of Chrome extensions to our advantage. Yes. Um, if you're
Yeah.
out there and you're joining us, I hear good morning, gig speakers. I'm spying on you right now. Yeah, you are. Uh, do you use Chrome extensions and do you spy on your competition? I would love to know. And
Hmm.
Phelan, so start us off while I open our Trello board of handy notes, which you took.
Yeah. So the kind of the first one that we always start off with, and it's always a really good one to have, even for just your own website, is Google Tag Assistant Legacy. And what this does is it lets you know, do they have like any of the Google products? Do they have them on their website, or do you have yours? And is it working? So those are important things
We do
for
this.
us.
Yeah. Sorry. Got excited. Got excited.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we do this quite frequently before we even we do our first sales call with them and just be like, oh, we see that you've done Google Ads, but the conversion tracking looks like it's not set up properly.
Yeah. So
Things like that.
you can check. What can you check on there? You can check if there's Tag Manager, if there's Google
Google
Analytics.
Analytics, both the old UA and the new GA4, you'll be able to distinguish. You'll see a little tag. You can tell if it's under a property because it'll say like UA dash number
Hold on.
and
I'm trying to show what it looks like to get the Tag Assistant. I did it wrong though. Anyway, go
uh,
on.
we're just playing around with Ecamm today. That's what's going on. We're just
Not
like, oh,
jarring
it's
at all, is it?
no, it's super easy. It's great. And so, yeah, what it is it'll let you see if there's like under properties. Um, yeah, that's a good one as well. We've got a comment about the built with for
I
spine.
use built with website running. We will share all the links to all the tools we use at the end of the video, probably about half an hour after. So come back and visit it. Do you use built with, Phelan?
I don't, but that's because I just do inspect element and I just read the code base, and it usually has a pretty good indication right away of like, oh, this is a Squarespace. Like it's pretty clear in most of the code of a page that who's hosting it or what type of system it's running. Almost always.
Ah, it's Mr. Greg.
Yeah, I
And
I had a gut suspicion that it was Greg that this is.
that would make this spying on you. That's awesome. Greg,
Uh,
glad you're here. Um, it sounds like you do spying on your competition. Built with, is that a Chrome extension?
no, it's a website.
Oh, yes. There's also the way back machine we use to look at things. But I think the number one thing we do before we get into a meeting with a client is we look at this stuff, right? Using this tool. So,
Yeah,
because we want to see if they have two tags of something, or if they're doing Google Ads, or if they told us they're doing Google Ads and then there's no tracking for Google Ads, right?
yeah, basically, or conversely, if they say that they're not running ads and we see that there's an active conversion tag, then we'll go, hey, in our last meeting you said you aren't running Google Ads, but we noticed that there's a conversion tag set up, so
Right.
maybe we want to find the account. We have definitely had that with a couple of people where they did not even know that they were still running ads. Um,
And there is a rule according to Google Ads that you can't run ads from two different accounts. You can actually get your account banned if you do that. Um, does it happen? Sometimes.
yeah.
There's some caveats in that. Okay, so
Uh,
that's the
um,
first Chrome
yes.
extension we use. Hold on one
Uh,
sec. Let me mute Phelan. Well, he talks to my mother for a second. Go ahead.
uh, and
uh,
it's so the next one that we have is a new one to our repertoire that you found, Pip, which is GMB Everywhere, and that one is for local SEO, and it does like a fast local SEO audit for your competition, and that's based on the your GMB ID, isn't it? Like it takes the ID of the your spot and then finds your competition.
Yeah, so you would put your competition through there. So you'd go and find them on Google Maps and then click on the GMB Spy or sorry, the GMB Everywhere and
Mm.
then it'll take you to a bunch of audits. So it'll take you to and you have to wait a couple minutes and you do get 5 free a month, which is super cool because there's a lot of information in the audits. They'll take you through what's going on with the reviews, what's going on with the posting. They even do page speed insights. They're attached to Uber Suggest. And People also ask, which actually Uber Suggest we just found out bought. So that's quite interesting. It's a really good tool to dig around in, and I highly suggest you try it because you get 5 free audits a month, and
Yeah.
it is great, and we actually are including that in our audit repertoire because it helps us do things faster. So those are two tools we use, which are Chrome extensions, which help us spy on our competition. What else you got, Phelan? What else you got?
Well, one of the other ones that, going off the GMB Everywhere is the GMB
Uh,
Spy. That's what it's called.
well, and it looks
Uh,
like GMB Everywhere might replace GMB Spy for us.
yeah, I just wanted to touch on it because we did use it in the past, but it definitely GMB Everywhere just does a better job all around. So definitely, if you're looking to do local competition, that's a really good one.
Well, and Gmb Spy is free, so that'll tell you the Google Business Profile categories that you want to know because you can't see. So you can see in Google Business Profile, you can see a company's main category, but you can't see their secondary categories they've picked. Um, and
unless you unless you know how to do inspect element, because that's what the Chrome extension is doing, is it's actually going to inspect element and it's actually reading it from the code, and then it's just making it easy for you as like someone who might not know how to read it. But if you know how to do inspect element, you can actually find it as a property
yeah,
under there.
but
So
GMB everywhere now it's just so it's quite easy. So we might not be using GMB Spy, and we are also now affiliates of GMB Everywhere. So there you have
yeah.
that. And only because we like it so much. Like it's so lovely. It actually when you go and do GMB Everywhere, you can look at the categories and then it'll take you over to um Google Trends, and you can see which category gets more search volume. So that I find that extraordinarily interesting.
Yeah, and that's definitely, yeah. There's it's pretty interesting how the tools are expanding and growing for this, especially with the local SEO stuff. It's a market that I feel was underserved for a long time, and now is getting a lot more attention.
Local SEO?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the tools have all like they've been kind of minimal. Like was Moz local and White Spark,
And
and
and all very American based, so not many
well,
great.
except White Spark. White Spark is based in Edmonton, which is why I like using them because they actually don't forget Canada when they do their proper listings. And
And it's just a shame they don't have a Google Data Studio, so that's what we use for reporting. API connection, so we can pull in that information because then we would buy it. Um,
oh yeah, yeah,
I think
it,
marketers, all of us might have a trend of buying SaaS products, right? Oh, okay. So we did GMB, we did Tag Manager, And what about mongols?
Mongols is just sort of is a really useful Chrome extension for if you're doing any on-page SEO. So basically, and especially good for websites so that you can't use something like Yoast on. And so it's just a really good free Chrome extension, which does the same thing as Yoast, pretty much. Like it tells you keyword density, it tells you how long the page is, what's your H1. It's the same kind of gamification you would get from Yoast.
Well, no, this is a Chrome extension, so this is to spy on your competition, not to go into the back end of WordPress, and that's what
No,
Yoast.
no, yeah. I'm saying it's the equivalent of it, but it's done through a Chrome extension. So you run the page, and then it scans the page, the Chrome extension, and then it spits back So, but you could do this for yourself or your competition, right?
Mm.
You could see, oh, this page is ranking really highly for my competition. What are the things that they're doing SEO on page SEO wise? And you can do an analysis of it that way. And
Now, what?
so,
I get all excited. Why are these things important? Like, it's important to, if you're doing keyword research, it's important to do the research, but then it's the secondary measure you have to take is looking at what your competition's doing to see if you can beat them, right?
yeah.
And so it's really important that you do competitive research, or else you might just be bashing your head against a wall for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And tools like Mongols are really good for if you see your competition has like a certain page that's doing really well for their traffic. Mongols will enable you to reverse engineer what they've done on page SEO wise. And
Hmm.
so you can actually kind of take a page, scan it, and then see, oh, they're got 3 times the word count that everyone else does, and it's more keyword density than everyone else does. Oh, that could be a signal for you. And so they give you those ideas on where to focus.
I like the inspect element for finding how many keywords. That's simple. Go over to a web page. Oh, sorry, not even inspect element. Just going over to a page and hitting the command find and typing in the keyword that you think the page is trying to rank for and seeing how many times it shows up on a page. I find that
Mm,
right.
yeah.
Because in our audits, we like to report exactly what the competition's doing and how they're winning, and beating you out, right? Because that gives us the tools to beat them. You have here Lighthouse from Google. What is that, Phelan?
So Lighthouse, if you've been doing anything with PageSpeed Insights, especially on its new URL, pagespeedinsights.web.dev, um, that is Google's. How would I put it? It's a tool that they've. It originally was like any sort of issues with your website and page speed, but they've made it so it does accessibility, it does SEO, and it checks for a bunch of SEO markers. So and then it also does the page speed insight, so it lets you know, hey, your website's been super slow for uh, first print content, all of those markers that you would see in page speed insights that's being run through Lighthouse. And so it's a useful little tool for just like giving a snapshot of your website and comparing it to your competition, where
Interesting. And that's just another Chrome extension.
yeah, and they also have a website that goes with it, just like PageSpeed Insights. It's one of the tabs that you'll notice in the PageSpeed Insights page that it's like, oh, you want to run a Lighthouse report, and then it will spit out, SEO and accessibility, which is becoming super important these days.
Don't put white on yellow. That's
Yes.
key. Key. We want people to be able to read the text, right, of things. So that's one of key components is your color contrast. Is there a specific name for that?
I think you got it there. It was color contrast is make sure that like you have sharp contrasting elements so that they're visible to anyone who might be visually impaired.
Yeah.
Because especially light color against light color, that's the first thing that eyesight apparently is really bad at registering, which makes sense, right? There's nothing that your eye can distinguish, so why would it would make sense that that would also be the case.
So after you add, did you hear the puppy? After you add all these Chrome extensions and go through them, you collect what you see and then report on it. We also use a couple other apps that are really great. So the first one, Screaming Frog. Now, why do we use? No, you can put your own website and your competitor's website in there, but not at the same time, right?
You could, if you pay for it, you can do batches. So you could do a cross compare against like
Ooh.
five different websites. Again, that's on the paid tier, but the free tier is honestly, it's so generous that uh, honestly, anyone getting started should definitely try Screaming Frog, and even for your own website, but especially for your competition. Because what it does is it's kind of like what Mongols does, but it's for the whole website. And so it's going to scan the website and it's going to tell you page titles, meta descriptions, word length, URL length,
Or
404s, 500 errors.
and those
Um,
are what are those? So a 404 is when,
we
the
screwed
page,
up.
yeah. And
So
the page
the
doesn't exist. So when somebody goes to a link and they click on it and they get a 404 page and, they have to hit the back button.
yeah, the status codes, they kind of work like this: 100s are all kind of background, 200s are successes, 300s are redirects, 400s are you screwed up, so you put in the wrong URL. Because the browser, that's what it thinks, is that it
Yeah.
didn't find anything based on what you asked it to get you. And then a 500 error is they screwed up, so their server's broken. Basically they're sending you back like an error message saying like, oh, we're down.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way to think of those 400s and 500s. Bad. You do
It's
not want those.
Yeah, it's really good though to know that little trick, because when you always think it's you that's the problem when you click on something and something doesn't work, and so when you get that 500 error, it's nice to be like, "Oh, it's them, not me."
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've definitely had that with a couple of, we're using a tool and we're like, why is it not moving forward? And then you go and read the log and it's like, oh yeah, there's a 500 error. There's just like, I can't remember. It was a Google product we were using. We were trying to set up a report and it just was spitting back an internal error. So
Yeah.
internal errors are the same as 500s. It means like, we had a problem. We cannot complete this. Please wait while we fix it.
Right. So we don't always put our competition through Screaming Frog or our clients competition, but I think we're gonna start doing it more, right? So that's all the on page stuff, I think. Dun dun
Yeah,
dun.
yeah, that's pretty much the so there's one other one that we like to use, especially when doing local competition searches, which is it's a tool by a company called Merkle, and it's on a website called technicalseo.com. And of course, we'll add a link to this. And what it does is it creates like a little VPN that you could use, and really useful for just a quick second. You're not doing like what you're doing with it is just searching, pretending like I want to pretend that I am in Toronto and I am looking for real estate agents. And then what you do is be with that information, they'll pretend create a little browser. And but the good part about it is that you're like you have none of that background information, so it's giving you a very pure, very raw, where it's taking out all the personalization that you might have stilted the search results.
Yeah.
Even if you're in searching incognito, that can also screw it up, because the cool part about the Merkle tool is you can even change your user agent data. So you can pretend that you're on a phone even though you're on a desktop. You can pretend that you're on Chrome even though you're using Bing. So
Mm,
like you can actually pretend to be all these other bits of information, and it gives you a nice blank slate. And then that way you know that like, oh, this guy just out of the box is ranking higher. And then you can see, oh, do they have more reviews? Are they filled out all their information on their Google
yeah.
My Business listing? Like, so there's a bunch of information that's going to be in there that's very useful.
And a Google Sheet's always useful when you do this. So, just
Oh yeah,
we have a Google Sheet where we, find out our clients' competition, write it down, and we go through all of their stuff. So we use these tools, we check everything to see what they're doing well and what they're not doing well, like where the gaps are. And Merkle, I we share it with our clients even because it's really confusing, when a business owner is searching for themselves online and they say to you, "Oh, I show up every time," or "I don't show up at all." And it's just,
yeah,
okay, this is a better tool for how to see where you're ranking on Google, right? In the search engine results pages, like where your business is really another really good tool that we don't have on our list, but I like it's awesome for local SEO. And we do use Bright Local for our NAP
oh
building, name, address, phone.
yeah.
but it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Google search results checker. So cool. Because it gives you all the pages and it will move your location slightly so that you can see, well, I'm ranking number one here, but over there I'm not even showing up. So I find that really interesting. The other tools to use that we don't use are Local Falcon, uh, and what's the other one?
Local Viking.
Local Viking. So we don't use those yet, but those will give you a grid of where you're showing up in different areas, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
We haven't found a real use case for it, and it works on tokens, and you get a number of tokens free a month.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a weird system that I wasn't a super fan of. I don't like that kind of weird two step where it's like I prefer to just pay money and you tell me how many I'm going to get, not I get
I like the,
tokens and then I use those tokens.
I like the freemium model, like I do, because it lets you utilize the tool. So we got Merkle. We did the Merkle and Screaming Frog. We've done Lighthouse, Gmb Spy, Gmb Everywhere, Mongols, Tag Assistant, and now there's a classic in here. There is a classic, the Google Keyword Planner. So we use this. You basically take your website, your competition's website, and you can scan it per page and see what keywords Google thinks that page can rank for. Or basically, because it's the Google AdWords tool, it's about Google saying, hey, you could bid on these keywords for this page. So that's an indicator, maybe, that you
Yeah,
could rank.
I would say much like whenever we talk about search console, right, that's like the from the source of truth is saying like, oh, we think that this website should be bidding on these keywords, so that gives you some indication of what Google thinks of that website in terms of keywords. So that
Yeah.
will just give you a good starting base to be like, oh, we should totally, maybe include, I don't know, something about real estate rentals or commercial leasing for our real estate clients, because Google really thinks that we're about that and we actually do offer it. So
Yeah.
there's things like that where you can find it, or find out maybe there's a service your competition's offering that you should be offering, or things like that. So it'll give you a good idea on what's going on.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I use the keyword planner all the time. And these are tools that, don't worry, they're not that hard to use. And when you go get an account or log in, just click around, and get down. I say that all the time. I know it probably bothers people by now. But okay, so we got the keyword planner. And then what about like local listing checks? I mean, do you, sometimes I go over to the search engine results pages on Google and I'll type in the business name um, and see what comes up on the first three pages, because you want to own that real estate on the first page, right? And you could do that with the competitors too. And then we have the local Moz listing checker. Not always most accurate.
no, especially if you're not in the United States. I found it to be lacking, especially if you're Canadian. They say that they cover Canada, but I found it to be just just incomplete data. I'll be honest. I mean, and in fairness, I mean, we are a tenth of their size. I understand that it's not like we're not the most important. That's why I tend to lean on White Spark for a lot of that stuff, because they are based in Canada, and so they do still care about what's going on in Canada for SEO.
Yeah.
So I find that to be a little more helpful. Um, but it's definitely or Bright Locals still actually been fairly good for us,
Mm,
because they're based in the UK, and so they're generally not as US centric, and so they do a better job at scanning lots of anglophone countries.
it's true. And they're, Bright Local, we're using more and more. I think they have a really good reputation in the SEO world right now, from what I'm seeing. Now, you
Make
have
it sound so ominous. You're like, yeah, for now.
now. Okay, so you have, Facebook ads library, which we'll get into in a minute, but we're still in the SEO stuff. The inspect element for scanning HTML is brilliant. So it's right clicking on the website, going down to the last available option, which is inspect element, opening it up. It's a lot of code. It looks overwhelming. And I think the things to do here are the Command F, right?
Yeah,
So it's the
yeah.
find tool in the inspect element. Now, what is the inspect element?
So inspect element is a tool that Google created for Chrome that basically it enables developers to do testing on how things are rendering. Also allows you. There's a thing called a console, which it logs everything. So if there are error messages, generally that's like if a website just doesn't do anything when I click on a button, I generally go check the search console or the console log, and then it'll probably say like, oh, it fritzed out, and
Right.
then so
It,
that can let you know about things like that. The other thing that's really important in the inspect element is anything that might be in the head code. So that's a little bit that's like it's only supposed to be visible to browsers. And so this you can find a lot of like maybe they have Hotjar. Like we had someone, um, one of the clients we were onboarding, it turns out she had Hotjar on her website and HubSpot integrations on her website. And I would not have known that unless I had done the inspect element and try to figure out what her site was built on.
right.
Um,
I'll often check that's how I check what a person's site is built on before I meet them. So because I'll inspect element, and then I'll, basically command find, or I think it's control find on a PC, and I'll type in WordPress or Square or Wix or Shopify. And usually, one of them comes. If nothing comes up, then I'm like, failing. That's usually the case there. Now, the inspect element, I found meta descriptions, titles, so I'll do Command F to find the meta titles if I'm not using Mongools. And you did something really interesting. Now, if you don't use an ad blocker, you probably see a lot of ads on blogs that you read and things like that. Um, there is a way with the inspect element where you can click on each element on the page and you can actually delete it, just for your view. And so you can get rid of all the ads that way. It can take a minute, but it helpful, right? Because clean page is always nice to be able to read, right? It's like we're back in
yeah,
the 80s or 90s, sorry, 90s, when the internet, first came out, and it was like there was flashing and boxes everywhere, and
yeah. It's well, the thing is, your browser, you have full control of what's going on there. It's just a matter of like finding elements, and like the website I was editing was the Neil Patel's website
mm,
because it's just like everything. There's just pop ups everywhere, and I found it very uh, just distracting. And I
yeah.
get that that's probably the purpose, but basically, I just went in, found each spot, and then just you can right click on the element in HTML and just say delete, and then we just deleted all of them, and
Just
they're gone.
yeah. Right.
Uh,
Okay. And so there we spend a lot of time on this, looking at our competition, for our clients to see what they're doing. Now, we had an instance where a client had a lot of backlinks, and we were wondering why. And you dug around and found out that it was because it wasn't positive, but because it was related to a newspaper story about um, bad
them getting
actions.
sued.
Yeah. So, how did you find that? Like, is there a tool for checking links besides an
Oh,
unpaid tool? Because SEM Rush, you could do something. Ahrefs, the usual. Those are all paid. I think SEM Rush you get like 7 days free. Ahrefs, maybe it's
it's
seven. No,
$7 for
Ahrefs,
7 days.
it's $7 for 7 days. Um, we have tried those tools over and over again, but they're pretty expensive for what we're doing, and so we're not completely sold yet. What are we using now?
Um, so Ahrefs does have a free tool called the Backlink Checker.
Mm,
So it is like a very drummed down version of it. So I would probably start with that one. I'll include a link to it. But basically, you can put in any URL and then hit check backlinks, and then it will generate a little report. I think it's limited in the number of times you can use it, but when you're just getting started, I think that'll be um, a really good one for people to learn and get your feet wet before having to fully commit to something because those tools do rack up pretty quickly in cost. So
yeah. So
um,
keep it to the free or the freemium model to try things first for sure, because it's about what you're gonna like, right? I mean, I think the GMB Everywhere was the tool I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And bought
It
it
was
right away, but it was very inexpensive. That's why for
well,
the
it was, and then also it was one of the tools that made a lot of sense that we could see a lot of value in having it for a year and using it a lot because we were doing. I mean, we are going to be doing a lot of audits as well.
yeah,
So,
we have 5 on the docket, I think. Woohoo! Woo! Audits and strategies.
yay.
Honestly, they're probably one of my favorite things to do. Um, who doesn't like spying on their competition? Just a smidge, right? See what they're doing. And Facebook. So just before we get out of here, although we are search engine marketers mainly, of course, we spend some time in Facebook. We have this group. Uh, we have some cool Facebook advertising friends, and so Facebook has a library you can look at. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. It was so it's a fallout where they wanted a lot more transparency into what was going on with people's ads and who was bidding on what. So you could see the ad that people are running, and you can also see it across time. So that's really good for people to see. Hey, if they're running the same ad for a long time, that must be generating them some money. That's a pretty good inference. Otherwise, they would probably have shut it down by now. And
And
so
is
that's
that for
just a way.
free?
Yeah, it's just an open, and you can just type it in by topic. So you could do yoga, and then see all the ads that are related to yoga.
And then, so if you saw one running for a long time, you're going to assume that that one's working for whatever audience they've picked.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could see which headline it was that worked because you can see all the other ones that they tried, and so you could see that that variation was worked, whereas the other ones they stopped doing. So the inference would be that they realized, oh, this one's working really well, and then stuck with that one.
And SEM Rush, I think, does that really well as well with Google Ads. You can see ads over time and changes. Quite interesting because you can see, if they're running ads for a long period of time, maybe they're thinking they're working. However, maybe somebody's just not changing up the ads, right? Then,
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible for that to be the case that someone might just not know what they're doing.
yeah.
Um, the other thing I wanted to touch on, just because we talked about the Facebook ads and circling back, you can do the exact same thing with the Wayback Machine. So I've heard of people doing that with landing page copy. You can see what your competition has done for landing page copy, because if they don't change it, that means that it's probably converting well. Whereas if you see it change a lot over the time, then that's probably tells you that that messaging wasn't working for them.
Yeah. And if, say, you're in a business where your competition has giveaways and things, you can do special searches on Google, which
Oops.
will
Search
PDFs,
operators
yeah, using
and
search operators.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Look in our Facebook Live library for we did one on search operators who even demonstrated it live. That was very unnerving when we did it because it was the first time doing it. But yeah, it's definitely one that I would go check out. And yeah, that goes into it more. But yeah, that was one I wanted to include as well. I forgot that at the time we were doing the prepping
or
notes.
check out YouTube because there it's easier to find the videos. Um,
Oh, yeah,
We
that,
are
that
on
too.
YouTube as well, so we're streaming in a couple places. Just so you know, if you're watching on our Facebook business pages or on YouTube, we run a Facebook group for marketers and business owners who love marketing. And it's called Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer. Long name, great people. And Phelan, we gotta go. We gotta teach a
Yeah.
class in a minute. But do you know what we're doing next week?
No.
Ah, I'm the prepared one. Although started 4 minutes late, prepared. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I look mostly prepared. I looked at the June 2nd, which is today. That's the last one. And it's spying on your competition. I will go and look at our handy dandy spreadsheet. And before we go, I'm going to let you know because I want you to be able to plan your next your meeting with us because maybe the topic doesn't suit you or maybe it's something you really want to know about. Oh, that
They
being said, if
they
you
will
ever
all suit you.
what?
They will all suit you. You're not allowed to not have it suit you.
Okay, so next week it's Rena and Greg, and they're going to be talking about where should you focus your time, your website or your social media. Oh, that's a good one. Two different types of marketers going head to head. We'll see who comes out on top. Bring your boxing gloves. Ding. That's all I got. Anyway, we will see you next week, and thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions or you would like links to anything that we didn't leave links to, let us know, and we'll put that in the chat in the Facebook group. Okay, bye.
Bye.